When I think back, I'm not exactly sure when I knew that I was going to go to college. Neither of my parents had gone to college. In fact, my father dropped out of high school because he had to write a term paper, and he didn't want to do that. But when it was my older sister graduated high school, they offered college to her, but there were conditions because he said if he was not alive and able, that we would have to help the children younger than us. So Virginia, my older sister, decided she would rather go to business college. And so she went to business college. And then I decided that I would go to college. I really wanted to be a nurse, but my father told me because I was large that it would be too hard to be a nurse, that I'd have to be on my feet all the time. And I needed something that was not so demanding physically. So I applied to Berea because when we would go up Highway 25 to Indiana, we would pass right through the campus at Berea, and I never thought much about it, but my daddy had noticed it, and he knew someone at his work whose daughter had gone to Berea. So he wanted me to go. I applied, and I was put on a waiting list. And Berea is a small liberal arts college, and it was rather hard to get in. And so I applied to Carson-Newman University and was accepted right away. So I had my heart set on going to Carson-Newman. And then I got a letter from Berea saying that I was accepted. I didn't really want to go because I wasn't first choice, but my daddy really wanted me to go there, so that's where I went. And it was the best decision I ever made. I fit right in, and I kind of found myself there. I went to Berea in 1950. You have to work if you go to Berea. You pay no tuition at Berea. You have room and board. But everybody has to work. You cannot go there if you don't work. You only have to work 10 hours a week. They have a program for people who can't afford room and board, and they call them half-day students. And you worked 20 hours a week, and you took a lighter load, and it usually took you a little longer to graduate. But I was the 10-hour week. So when I got there, I got in the dorm. Then I found out I had to find a job. And I heard other people talking about their jobs, and they were talking about the candy kitchen. So I went down to apply at the candy kitchen. And they said they could not hire me because I was left-handed. And the jobs at the candy kitchen were very intricate. They sold little boxes of tea sugars. They were about 1-inch cubes of sugar. They weren't an inch thick, but they were an inch around, about an inch squared, and then about a half-inch thick. And they were decorated with tiny little flowers. And they said they couldn't train a left-handed person to do that. So I went back, and I was very upset, and I thought they'll just send me back home because I don't have a job. And the faculty representative in my dorm evidently heard me talking about it. And so her name was Mary Williams, and she told me if I was interested in music to go talk to Rolf Hovey at the music department. And so I went down to see him, and he found out I could take shorthand and typing. I mean, I could type and I could take shorthand. So he hired me as his personal secretary. But because I was a freshman, every freshman had to do something called institutional labor, which meant you had to do some kind of cleaning or work in the dining hall or haul groceries from the pantry to the kitchen, or some kind of not dignified work, I guess. And so he said, well, we'll arrange that. You can clean the piano keys in the practice rooms once a semester, and that will be your institutional labor. So that's what I did. And so I was then found my place at Berea with my job at the music department. And they had very strict rules, especially for girls. You had to be in your dorm at 7 o'clock at night. If you were a female, you had to sign into your dorm by 7 o'clock or dark, whichever came first. And in the wintertime, it was dark by 5:30. But I got around that after a while because I realized that the ones who worked in the dining room at the college hotel, which was called Boone Tavern, but was not in any way a tavern, but those who worked there could sign out to work and come in late. And so one time I just tried putting work down and went out and came back, and nobody ever questioned me. So I worked quite a little bit in the evenings after that. But I didn't do that my freshman year. That was later on when I became more daring. We always thought it was really terrible because the guys had no rules at all. They could be out and around. So later on, when a couple of my friends, Norma and Ann, and I would get hungry at night, we'd call our buddies, Jim and Bill, and they would come over and we would tell them to go get us hamburgers, and they would bring them back, and we would fasten belts together and let them down off the balcony, and they would attach the bag of food and we'd wheel it up. And so then one year there was a new faculty member at the music department, and she was right out of grad school. And so I became pretty good friends with her, and I could get out of the dorm with her because she had a key. And so that was a fun year too. But my whole experience at Berea was one of becoming more confident in myself and learning who I was. And it was just a wonderful school, the right size. You knew most everybody, small town, and it was just a great, great experience. My first roommate was from Alabama. We had absolutely nothing in common, especially because she liked to get up early, sometimes before daylight, and throw open the windows in the wintertime and take exercise on the floor. And that was not my style at all. The next year, I lived in a room with two girls. They had some 3-girl rooms, and 3 girls don't get along very well. And so I was aggravated about that situation, and I discovered that in the dorm I was in, they had a 1-girl room. And so I requested that my junior year. By then I had good friends. They were not my roommates. And so I requested the 1-girl room, and I got it. And I stayed in that 1-girl room then until I graduated. And I was very happy in my 1-girl room. But I had good friends. I'm still in touch with some of them. And it was a good experience.